Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the topic for today's discussion that I was intrigued to make is the traumatized Western woman and the traumatized and broken Western man. Growing up in this country from the Eastern perspective, I just see that natural paradigm and that natural relationship between a man and a woman has been so drastically destroyed. Coming from the culture that I do, once a man and a woman commit to marrying each other or have love for each other, that's it. That's your partner for the rest of your life through the ups and the downs. And that's why here in America, those Eastern communities that immigrate here, majority of them are nuclear families that stick with each other, that build each other up. But I noticed, even looking at American history, that after the 1950s, because it was the same even here during up until that period, something had changed, which caused a divide between the man and a woman. And growing up in the school system here, I would see, let's say, that somebody would be with a single father or somebody would be with a single mother, and there would just be that trauma, right? Where those that don't take this seriously call it the mommy issues or daddy issues, where those that grew up with some kind of, issues with the mother, whatever mate that they would find in their adulthood, they would project their mother onto them. Same thing with a young woman who grows up with any kind of trauma in terms of the father of the household or the head of the household. She will project that with every man that she's with. And I noticed that pattern and trend as I'm obviously a watcher and an observer on many things and circumstances and subjects. So I noticed that this society is broken, and there's always that pattern of abuse and trauma. Let's say you have a young man or a young woman, not to disambiguate the both, because they're both equally traumatized and broken in this part of the world, where they will see, let's say, their mother has multiple children from multiple men, right? Or let's say the father is in that situation. Then the child grows up repeating the same cycle, and they fall into that where they project their traumas onto their partners rather than taking responsibility or trying to break the cycle in any way to make sure that what happened to them doesn't happen to their offspring. And let's say, hypothetically, one of them runs into a righteous person that's trying to love them, uplift them, but for them, everything is seen as a threat. They try to isolate themselves. And who benefits from this, right? Look at it from the 1960s. Who benefited from this? It was the corporations that benefited from it. So instead of having a father who's making a living to provide for his wife and children, now you created more taxpayers because now the women joined the workforce. Instead of having one apartment rent or one house mortgage, now you have two separate house rents and mortgage because now you created separation. Instead of one fridge, now you need two fridge, one stove, two stove, one bed, two bed. So the people at the top who make money, who wanted to break the human family, they benefited from this. And now we have industries that promote degenerate behavior and disrespect towards women. And it's crazy that you're living in a country that supposedly gives women's rights. Women don't have any rights here in terms of many of the social issues that they're facing, so many women's groups that you see here that are fighting for so many various scenarios and causes, and how they're disrespected and abused and manipulated and just used like a piece of cattle in so many of these industries here in America and the Western world. And then they have the nerve to say that Islam doesn't treat their women correctly. In Islam, a woman has a right to choose her husband, to inherit property, to be in a position of leadership, and to have all the equal rights. Even the prophets, peace be upon him's first wife, chose him to be a spouse. So a woman that's the divine feminine. And basically with the male is also the divine masculine. But something here in the West is twisted, where every video that I see, even on the TikTok platform or other platform, it's women degrading themselves, their bodies, and using that daddy phrase all the time. That's projected into these different industries where they're manipulating these women, choking them, spitting them, pissing on them. This is just a projection of that trauma-based mind control. And women can't be happy with, even if they do run into the right person, right? There is that chance that does happen. But they treat everyone as a projection of what happened to them. And their cycle of suffering continues and continues and continues. Same with the men. Their cycle of suffering continues and continues. So you got to realize who benefits from breaking the man and the woman. I read a lot of this history and I look at many of those images from the 50s, and of course, America had its racist problems then, and it still does, probably now more than ever. But that shows you that all communities, all racial groups in this country were targeted in that way, right? Where now the state gets involved and there's a single mother, they're fighting with each other over the courts, over custody of the children. I see so much heartbreak. I even know one individual who drove himself near suicide, but thank God he got himself out of that hole because the system was not allowing him to be with his children or to see his children while the mother had custody of the children. So that's not fair. That's not fair, the hurt and the trauma that I see in this nation. And to know that both the woman and the man have been traumatized and broken. That aspect of real love, not lust, real love, real affection, the importance of having children, starting a family, loving each other, uplifting each other. Something has changed. And in times now more than ever, I implore my Western brothers and sisters, think about it. Read your history. Know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, then what do you stand for? If you don't know who I am, what I stand for, you're not educated about the suffering that your ancestors had to endure for you to live the life that you have today, and you remember their sacrifices, what good is your existence? If you're one of those traumatized and broken men or women that's jumping from one relationship to another, projecting your traumas and insecurities onto the person who had nothing to do with your suffering. Even let's say you end up dealing with one who was there to help you break the cycle, but you push them away. That's the shaitan in Islamic terms. That's the darkness that's telling you to separate yourself from others. In our true nature, that's not how we're supposed to be. That's why you see people here suffering, where they're drinking Al-Ghul, the demon, alcohol. They go under these influences. They're sleeping with whoever that they want, attaching demons and more entities to their etheric cords and existence, and not having that basic decency of respecting a woman, respecting a man. Heaven lies at the feet of your mother. This is what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says for the divine feminine in Islam. And I myself belong to a Sufi order that professes itself on the divine feminine. So what I see here is a total inversion of the roles of the man and the woman, and the respect and balance that's supposed to be there, right? So that's something that has to be addressed. And yes, there has to be, because that's why this society is suffering so much. If this was supposed to be the perfect society, why is there such an implosion right now of drugs, of rape, of crime, of degeneration and debauchery and disrespect towards each other, towards the elders, towards the young? Why? If this was such a model society, then what is going on? Something has gone wrong. And now you're at a time where, like what Ibn Khaldun says, the Sufi philosopher, that weak men, or equivalent to weak women, create hard times, because the blame lies with both equally. Both have to equally be on an equal footing to get the society back in order. Have realistic expectations for your partner. Be there to uplift each other. And think about it. Besides the physical pleasure and the physical looks, what do you bring to the table? Do you have the strength and the courage to settle with someone and have accountability and start a family and build a future together? Or do you find it easier to stay in your cycle of traumas and jump from one bed to another, one relation to another, and continue the cycle of trauma and hurt, which will continue into their lives of their offsprings as well? So think about these things. If you truly care about the future and the type of world that you want to live, stop giving your attention to these industries and energies that don't benefit you. Like, in America, if you take away people's alcohol and their ball games and their entertainment, there would be riots out in the street. What kind of society do you have at the end of the day? Where instead of coming together on real issues and helping uplift each other in your communities, that's what's more important, to feel manly watching UFC and football and all this stuff with your friends, and to appear masculine in front of the woman. That's not true masculinity. The true man is the one who loves and defends his woman and uplifts her, settles down with her, raises a family with her. And the true woman is the one who reciprocates the same back to the man. But we're living in a broken society where it's easier. Oh, it's a free country. I can do whatever I want. That do what thou wilt philosophy leads to disaster. You can't just go out and do whatever you want. That's why there are systems and laws to keep society in control, because without that, we're animals. And sometimes even animals are better than us in terms of how they respect each other's boundaries. So look at it this way. You want to create a better future for your children and the generations that come ahead. Because the world that you inherit today is given to you from your ancestors who sacrificed for it, who fought for it, who bled for it, so you can have the luxuries of life that you're enjoying today. Think about that. What kind of world do you want to pass on in the future? Sit down if you have a son or a daughter, or you yourself are in that predicament where you're in a relationship or about to be in potential one, or you're dealing with somebody of the opposite sex. What kind of example are you exemplifying in your behavior? What kind of music are you listening to? Where it's telling you about, oh, just F them and leave them and that kind of stuff. And imagine you're a man with a daughter. You want that kind of music out there? Right? If you're a man and you're listening to all this stuff, or you're a woman and you're listening to this, what kind of society are you tolerating, honestly? And all this stuff has demons attached to it, right? Those demons, when a lot of these people in these industry make these pacts with these demons for fame and fortune, those frequencies that it spells associated with them. And you're inviting that force into your life, and then you start acting upon it. That's why in Islam music is banned, because it influences behavior, right? So, and even the recent tragedy that happened in Texas, that was a sacrifice to the demons. And you people continue to support this system, which promotes disrespect towards the man and the woman, the division, the cycles of endless trauma, you not coming together, the man and the woman equally not admitting and being accountable for their actions, and instead running from one relation to another. Then with each relation they're projecting the same insecurities and traumas, and then at the end they want to end up playing the victim. So, that's basically it, right? You tell somebody, oh, I love you, then you're friends with them, then you turn on them. So the abused becomes the abuser, and that's what I've seen here as well. I mean, in my culture we don't have this, so it is a blessing for me. I mean, it's, how do I put this in good words? I mean, coming from the Eastern culture and seeing the difference between the man and the woman here, and how it is so revered in our culture for you to stick together and love each other and honor each other, and not just run away from each other when there's bad times. You promise to be with each other in sickness and in health. And that's even true even if you look at all religions and philosophies that tell you to do the same, whether you're following the eastern side or the western side. But something has gone wrong here, which has put one against the other. Why don't you all come together and uplift each other? In Islam, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Creator. You look at Rahman, that's feminine. Rahim is masculine. So you cannot become one unless the opposite joins with you, just like Neo and Trinity in the Matrix. They're telling you the truth. Even with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Neo and Trinity, masculine and feminine, you need each other. You need to uplift each other and become the one. That's what the one means, that one true androgynous energy of the Creator. And in Islam, a Muslim's faith is not complete until he or she marries, settles down with their opposite half. That's when your faith and submission to the divine is complete. So right now we're living in a society where the man doesn't want to settle down and marry or commit to one woman and be faithful to her. The traumatized woman is in that same predicament. She doesn't want to marry or commit or uplift and be true to the man. That's not how things work. And even if they do find, let's say, a good woman enters a traumatized man's life, or a good man enters a traumatized woman's life, they ask for marriage and proposal, then what happens? They run away, they refuse accountability, and then they continue their cycle of projecting their insecurities and traumas to the next person. And that is a big hole that this society needs to dig itself out of. So I hope everything that I said has benefited you in some way, as somebody that's an outsider, and has given you a non-biased observance of what I've seen here and what is right and what needs to be straightened out. So take the time to be the examples to your children, to yourself, and to each other. Even if one person gets impacted by listening to my message, then my endeavor was worth it. Because then I already made the world a better place by improving the mindset or thinking of an individual who was meant to come across my message. So with that, I give much love to you and yours, and thank you always.